Welcome to Spiritual as Fuck,
Spiritual as fuck.
a podcast where we explore everything outside of the ordinary. I'm Liz Volpe. I'm a social entrepreneur, now psychic medium, teacher and mentor, with a huge passion to inspire people to dream big and change the world.
I'm Diane Driscoll, a coach, facilitator and speaker. I'm also a psychic intuitive, learning to incorporate my spiritual gifts into my life and business.
We're here today to share real and raw spiritual stories. It's going to give you a safe space to challenge what's normal and have some serious fun along the way.
We hope you're ready to get spiritual as fuck. Have you ever heard the voice of an angel? That is exactly what I thought the first time I experienced the amazing voice of Ali Skiba, before the world learned of her incredible gift on the hit TV show The Voice. Ali Skiba is a songstress, sound healer and medicine woman on a mission to raise the vibration of humanity. Her recent debut on The Voice Australia has sent ripple effects of healing vibrations across the globe. As a pioneer in bringing sound healing to the mainstream, Ali is incredibly passionate about sharing her medicine with the world. Using a unique combination of breathwork, sound healing, meditation and voice activation, Ali helps people reconnect with their innate self-healing abilities to alleviate anxiety and depression, prevent burnout, and boost mental performance. We couldn't think of a more perfect person to join us for the final episode of 2023. Not only do we hear about Ali's amazing spiritual journey, but she also has a bonus for you. Ali has gifted you, our Spiritual as Fuck podcast listeners, with a healing heart song transmission sound healing to say goodbye to 2023 and pave the way for 2024. This will be available as a bonus episode, so you can listen to it time and time again throughout the year. So make sure you check that out, as well as the interview with Ali.
So welcome back, everyone. Can you believe the journey that we have had through 2023, and we are only days away to bring in 2024. So for Diane and I, after this incredible journey of the Spiritual as Fuck podcast this year, our first year in podcasting, what a ride. We really wanted to bring in the perfect guest. And can I say we've definitely found her. So we wanted to bring someone in that would help us all not only feel grateful and to reflect on what 2023 has brought us, but also to allow us to move forward into the new year with that clean slate, healed, feeling fresh, feeling clear. And yes, we do have the amazing Ali Skiba here with us today. Welcome, Ali.
Welcome, Ali.
Wow, what an intro. Thank you. So honored to be here. Thank you.
So exciting. Now, some of you may have already heard of Ali. She's pretty famous. She has been on The Voice. We'll get there, though. We'll get there. But for anybody that hasn't, this is a treat for you because Ali is super special. She calls herself a sound healer. She's a breathwork facilitator. She does voice activation. And aside from that, as a person, she really encompasses a true spiritual journey, I believe. So there's so many different questions we can probably throw at you, Ali, but I feel like we really need to start at the beginning with you. You're not from Australia, firstly. Tell us a little bit about where was the starting point for all of this? Where did you come from?
Well, great question. So it started, at least I'll start with the beginning of my spiritual journey, essentially, that led me to leave the States. So in 2017, I was working in San Francisco. I had climbed the corporate ladder to obtain what I thought to be ultimate success in life. I had my engineering degree. I was working at a very prominent tech company in San Francisco, getting paid great money, but I was miserable. I was anxious, I was depressed, I was using alcohol, weed, food, substances to just numb and dull my existential crises because I didn't really know what else to do. And so I found myself in this perpetual state of fight or flight, burnout. And ultimately, it wasn't until I discovered yoga threw myself into a yoga teacher training while I was working my corporate job in San Francisco. Did that nights and weekends, and had this just random desire to look up online yoga jobs abroad. I was like, I
Oh,
need a career.
wow.
I need a career change. Let's see. And then it was like, oh, there's this whole world of job opportunities for yoga teachers to travel the world in exchange for food and shelter, to work at different surf camps, different hotels. And I thought, well, why not? That sounds pretty awesome. So within less than a year of getting my yoga teacher training, I quit my corporate job. I sold everything I owned, and I booked a one-way ticket to Panama to work on a boat in the Caribbean.
Woo!
um, yeah, and of course, it all sounds so glamorous, and it was quite an adventure, but it was uh, it was a journey for sure that was really only the start of my soul quest. And so it started off on a boat in Panama where I was teaching yoga, cooking, cleaning, as boat hostess, and then traveled around, got off the boat. It's a story for another time, but the captain was a bit cuckoo. Ended up
We're going to come back to that one.
ended up, getting off the boat and onto another island teaching yoga. Traveled ultimately with 16 countries and 5 continents. And while I was
Wow.
traveling, yeah, I was very much so looking for answers from every guru, every shaman, every healer I could find. I was convinced that there was something wrong with me, that I needed someone to wave their magic wand or, give me some sort of plant medicine to just knock me right back into equilibrium. And so this journey, which seems from the outside so glamorous, and wow, she quit her corporate job to go travel the world, and yet I was more miserable than I had ever been, because there I was, with a backpack, a guitar, and by the time I left India, 6 kilos of Himalayan singing bowls, completely lost and unsure of like, what happens when I run out of money? How am I going to sustain myself? And so, yeah, really I spent most of that time outsourcing my healing to other people, hoping that somebody would fix me, or that, at one point I thought maybe I was dying, and that if somebody could just, affirm that I have a terminal illness, I could just move on with my, rest of my days. And it was a lot of anxiety. It was a lot of just dysregulated, nervous system that I didn't realize until I started to study, the nervous system and breath work, and to understand just how dysregulated my nervous system was while I was traveling. But I ended up, from ayahuasca in Peru to many questionable treatments in India. I stayed at a music ashram for 2 months. And then I was in Sri Lanka doing a Vipassana, meditating 10 hours a day, 10 days straight, hoping
Wow.
that that would fix me. And I volunteered at an orphanage in Bali because I thought, well, maybe I just need to get out of me, my purpose, and like serve humanity. Turns out me and 80 kids was like the worst idea I could ever. Again, another story, so many stories, but I ended up in Bali, having my version of eat, pray, love, but it was more like eat, pray, cry, eat, repeat, because I was just so, again, just lost and confused. And where in the world do I belong? And what do I do? And, not having a home, living out of a backpack. My body, I didn't bleed for the entire time I was traveling. And at the time,
Wow.
I didn't even realize that was a problem. I was like, oh, well, one less thing to worry about. And so, of course, I go to Bali, Mama Bali, and everyone's, just divine goddesses and really embodying their flow and their femininity. And yeah, it was there that I really, really connected deep within and understood, okay, there's so much more to this journey, and to just slow down and give myself space to heal and be. And started developing my practice with breath work and sound healing, and all just sort of figuring it out as I went along, playing at the yoga studios in Ubud, and then still wasn't really making it financially. So took my final dollars down under on a whim, wasn't even planning to come here, wasn't on my little spreadsheet of Ali goes around the world seeking, sanity. Oh, that wasn't what it was called, but something along the lines. And I had a friend who was in Australia, in Manly, and for those who know Manly, she was overlooking the Bower, had this amazing
Oh,
apartment, and she goes,
beautiful.
"I'm going to be in Europe for 3 weeks, so why don't you just come and stay at my place and see what you think about Australia and Sydney?" And so I came here and I fell in love with this place. Tried my luck playing music on the streets, tried to get jobs at different yoga studios because I thought, no, I can't go back to corporate. Um, but ultimately, it was either I get a job or I don't have enough money to go back to live at my parents. And love you, mom and dad, but going back to live at home was probably like the most cringeworthy, fearful thing I
That's
could. Yeah,
motivation right there, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah,
I was
absolutely.
like, right. So I'm like, all right, golden handcuffs, let's go, let's go. I'm ready to make some money again. And within 3 weeks of getting to this country, I had a job, a visa sponsor, and an apartment lined up. So it was kind of like this land just sucked me up and said, come here,
Feels very
child."
divinely guided. Yes.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it was really helpful to get some finances, some stability, and then ultimately, was able to build my business on the side and just better understand what that even is. What am I offering? What am I called to do? And so it gave me the safety and security to do that. And almost a year ago to the date, I left corporate to follow my dreams and pursue this business full time. So
Oh,
it's
Oh,
congratulations.
exactly. I feel total goosebumps just listening to that. There's like, I resonate so much with what you say, Ali, because like I guess my background being former corporate and just the nervous anxiety of, what does life look like after that takes a long time to detangle
mm,
with. But also very much feeling the whole I'm broken, I need to be fixed. And you're looking, desperately, in my case anyway,
mm,
desperately looking for what's that fix. And what I see through through your journey and the work that you do, it is very much a case of, when we stop looking to be fixed and really embrace where it is we're being led with a lot of surrender, and you've done that very gracefully, or at least how you're telling us so far is very graceful. But I just think there is something in that when we embrace the fact that we don't need to be fixed, or we don't need someone else. The answer's not out there. It's
mm.
in here. And yes, we can have facilitators, and we can have people who will help us along that journey, but ultimately it's up to us to heal and help ourselves move forward. I would love to know just some of those kind of tipping point moments, or where you really had to dig deep, for courage. Because when I'm looking at you now, I'm thinking you're just absolutely glowing and radiating. For anybody who's watching this
Oh,
on YouTube, you can see it, like you've got a physical presence that emanates from you. But I'm sure there were some messy times along the way on that spiritual journey. Was there any tipping point where you had to really, really dig deep?
oh, I mean, look, it was every day
Yeah.
was a struggle getting up, and I was reading all the books. I had my morning pages where I was, writing down just how anxious and miserable I was. I was on my knees some mornings crying, just praying for support. And it didn't help that because I didn't bleed that whole time, my estrogen levels had plummeted to that of a woman in menopause. So I had really no access to the hormones to support my serotonin. And of course, being in a place of fight or flight survival mode, I was just completely constricted. And as you are constricted, you're not open to the flow of miracles and just things coming
Mm.
through. So I was very much so in the belief that I had to force everything in the universe to fit just the way. And if I
Yeah.
didn't do it, I did it wrong. There was a moment I found myself in Bali, living in paradise, paradise, surrounded by rice fields and birds chirping. And I woke up, I could hardly get out of bed. I found myself literally on my knees in the kitchen crying. And I was just so afraid. I was so afraid of, not being able to make it
Yeah.
outside of corporate. And I think I was also very much so stuck in the what will people think and I'm a failure. And so there was a lot of that. And but I pulled myself up. I pretty much lived my life around the yoga studio. It was like, oh, there's vinyasa at 9. Okay, that's what my day revolves around. Vinyasa at 9. Great. Oh, another vinyasa. We'll do it at 12. Sure. I mean, I was doing so much yoga because it was just so healing for me, and the
Yeah.
smells and the community, and everyone's there to tend to themselves. And my goodness, the amount of tears that I cried in those yoga classes. But yeah, it was, I think, all necessary in the end to really get a
Mm.
visceral taste of absolute madness and depression and anxiety, and to be able to now speak to my mentorship clients and my breath and voice clients about, I know. Oh, I know what you're going through. And
Yes.
to really be able to serve from that space. So, as icky and painful as it was, I know in my heart it was exactly what was necessary to put me on the path to what I offer now, and feel called to share.
Absolutely. And I think anyone that really taps into their soul's journey along the way, there's always been that time of that feeling, that absolute despair, but knowing that there's the opposite of that feeling as well, and going on the
Mm.
journey to feel the opposite, which I think is just so cool. And for anyone that's listening, trust that that is there as well. What came first, Ali, for you? Because obviously now we'll talk a bit about, I guess, the sound healing side of it, but was it breath work that really started to help you make that shift of it? Or was it more the sound healing and singing? And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, hands down, it was the breath work. It was the breath
Okay.
work. As I mentioned before, I was, looking for every guru, shaman, healer I could find, any sort of treatment, you name it, I signed up for. And then I did a breathwork class in Bali, and it was called like expand your consciousness or something like that, where we did some really deep cyclic breathing. And for the first time in my entire journey or entire life, it felt like I was able to soften after that breathwork practice. It was like I was plugged back into the source grid, where it was this full body reminder of, you're safe, it's okay, everything is perfect. And I thought, holy smokes, what was that? I feel good. I feel aligned. I had brain fog because I just kept thinking that everything I was eating was inflammatory, and maybe part of it was, but the breath work helped the brain fog. It helped, it massively alleviated the anxiety. It helped with my sleep. And so from that moment on, was a bliss junkie devotee to breath work, because I thought, how can I continue this work, but also how can I share it? Because for me, when something works, it's like painful not to share it with other people. So
Yes.
as quickly as I was also interested to heal myself, I was like, ooh, this is something the world needs, right? Let's get on with it. But ultimately it was the breath that helped me release a lot of the trauma that I didn't even realize I had stored in my body, sexual trauma, different things that, yeah, it just has been holding in pockets of my body, of my psyche. And I tell you, 10 days of meditating for 10 hours straight took me 20 minutes of breath work to get to what, 10 days of
Wow.
meditating. So,
That's
you know,
huge.
And it's so
it,
simple, right? Breathing. It's
it,
breathing. We all have the opportunity to try this. And I love how
yeah.
you said that, because so many of us go through life and we're just living in that space of our rational, logical thinking mind. And it just
Mm.
sends us in cycles. Yet the minute we do something to turn that off and just actually just reconnect with our body again, we've all got it there. We don't need anything else. We reconnect and the answer's there. The healing is there. Wow. So inspiring.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, and the beauty with the breath work, and it's breath work because we're actually doing intense, deep breathing. Diane's been to one of my sessions, and
Yes.
yeah, I put you to work, but it's ultimately what we're doing is we're quieting the prefrontal cortex. And when we quiet the prefrontal cortex, the neocortex, the thinking brain, we allow the innate sensory wisdom of our bodies to kick in and heal. And for a lot of us, we have not given our bodies space to do its thing. We are thinking our way through our feelings. We are strategizing every element in our lives through the mind. And it was just such a potent wake up call to come home to body, like trust your body. Hello, body. Nice to meet you. She'll take care
Mm,
of you if you let
Yes.
her. Get out of the way. So
yeah.
yeah, it was good, and it's still a journey, and I'm still doing that. I'm still doing my breath work weekly, if not multiple times a week, to come back to balance. I still wake up some days with anxiety. So it's not like a perfect story where it's all healed and done. It's a life's journey, and it's constant, and it's a dance that I tango regularly.
I love that because like you think about, you spoke about earlier that, whether it was, alcohol, weed, or, we have these things that we look elsewhere for coping mechanisms, to help us get through the day or get through whatever is occurring for us. But then when we start down a spiritual path, a lot of people are led towards things like ayahuasca, or, that they want to dabble in other things. But when we stop and think about the breath, like how accessible it is to us, most of us don't breathe correctly. But when we breathe correctly, when we absolutely tap into that, there's a degree of purging that occurs as part of the the breathwork process as well. And to be able to do that, to release trauma from the body, like how, like, there, to me it almost seems like there can't be anything much better than that, because it is naturally available to you. It's
Absolutely.
under your own control. You are in charge of your own faculties as you're going through it, and as a recovering control freak, that is really important to me. So
Yes.
having gone to your, like, I guess I'm fortunate that I've gone to your group sessions, and I've also had the privilege of doing a one-on-one session with you. But that, having that sense of being participating in my own healing, actively participating in that, and being able to take strategies away from those sessions to be able to implement that into your day-to-day life as well, is so empowering. But I would love to know if you can, like, there's probably no compare and contrast, but doing something like ayahuasca versus really leaning into the breath work, is there any comparison? Is there any parallel that you can draw in your experiences as you went through both of those?
Yeah, well, and I think a lot of people want to know, because I'm sure many people are contemplating a trip to Peru to go sit with a
Yes.
shaman and drink ayahuasca. Because when I went into it, I'm like, great, so all my childhood traumas will just be cleared. A fairy will come in and tell me what my
Yes.
purpose is, and like someone will just like
Done.
wave some leaves over me, and I'll be completely good. But for me, it actually took me too far. And I think this is just
Mm.
the part of anyone want a second cup? I'm like, it's not kicking in. I need a second cup. I need a third cup. And he's blowing tobacco in my face. I'm like, yo, can I get a hit of that? And turns out maybe it took a bit longer to kick in, because by the time it kicked in, it kicked in. And they're closing the ceremony.
Oh my God.
And I'm like in another dimension. And they're like, honey, I need you to sit up. We're closing the circle. And I'm just like, blah. So it was,
Wow.
I think at the time I maybe had a very slow, just processing, slow metabolism, and maybe that's just part of my metabolism. But it felt very scary
Yeah.
because they pretty much sent us away, or everyone's debriefing by the fire, and I'm down on the floor with the dog, just like contemplating like what it's like to be an
Hmm.
animal, and it was scary, honestly. And I think a lot of people, there's a lot of people holding these ceremonies that are not
Yes.
Mm.
shamans. I
That
mean,
sounds really scary.
That
the
is
guy
scary. Just
was,
keep giving. Like, there's
yeah.
responsible service of alcohol.
Yeah.
There needs to be responsible service of
Oh
ayahuasca.
God.
I mean,
That's
I was
scary.
very convincing. I'm like, yo, shaman, who is also like a recovering corporate executive, engineer living in Peru, wearing his shaman garments, ultimately. But for me, it took me too far out. It took me too far out to the point where I was scared for my life. I thought I was going to die. And a lot of people had that experience, and they were like, it was so beautiful. I like touched death and ego dissolution. And I'm like, yeah, mate. Nah, I have too many family members with psychosis that the fact that I was on that, ooh, well, if I just step off the edge of the universe, will I come back? Like, I'm not taking that. I'm not taking that risk. So maybe if I do it again, which it's not, it's in the realm of possibilities, one cup. one
Yes.
cup and just let it go.
And
Maybe
a
not
shaman that's going to
three.
stick around.
Exactly, exactly.
Please.
Yeah, so
Oh.
breath work though, I mean, it's so simple but yet so profound, and if done in the right space, you always want to have a facilitator with you. And I mean, you can do it alone. I have digital recordings that I sell on my website. There I'm in your ears guiding you, but it's good to have somebody with you. But ultimately, back to your point, Diane, is it's not me as a healer or someone as a shaman. It's connecting to that healer within you, within the psyche of the individual who's breathing, because that's where profound healing and realization comes, is from within, not from somebody coming into your head and telling you, what you need to do. And plant medicine, don't get me wrong, I love mushrooms.
Yeah.
Love it. Love, love, love. In the right doses, in the right setting. I don't go
Mm.
to a ceremony. I do my own, where it's like a very sacred, with a couple girls, where we know our dosage, we have our safe spaces, we have, those boundaries where we're not in each other's faces, in each other's heads. It's like you have your space, but I can keep an eye on you. We all know, where we're at.
And I
But yet
think that's
again,
another thing in coming back to your body, because your body intuitively will always know what to
mm,
do if you have that connection right. You will get that bad feeling if you shouldn't go and take that next one, or as long as
yeah.
you've got that connection. Ali, about a year ago, I first came across a video of you on Facebook through a friend. Wow, it was a video of you actually singing. And I think I even showed my kids. I'm like, come
Oh,
here, listen, because, I've been through a spiritual awakening. And since that spiritual awakening, I'm really impacted energetically through vibration, through frequency and sound, obviously. And when I was really listening to you singing, not only did I get full body shivers, it put me on the spot, meaning that I could not move. Like, I had to listen to all of it. And I showed my kids because I wanted to see what other people reacting the same as me.
mm,
And then from that, I went on to then watch some of your videos where you played the singing bowls, and you really opened my eyes up to sound healing. And I did that investigation, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. This girl is channeling angels or some shit. Like, your voice.
no.
And I've always been interested to ask you this, because when you play, you intuitively allow the sound to come through. How does that work? Like, tell me how
Mm.
that happens, please.
Yeah. Firstly, I'm so touched that you've enjoyed my music and the videos that I've shared. And what did your kids think?
Oh, they loved it. My daughter Isla, like,
Oh,
she loves singing. She was just as stuck to the screen as me. So
My
yes.
daughter
Oh, I
too,
love
same
that.
thing, loves it. Yeah.
Oh, so sweet. So, look, it's been a massive journey, and I think I never knew I had this in me. I never knew I had the ability to sing like this. I never knew I had these gems as a space holder, as a breathwork facilitator, as all these things. I had no idea. And it wasn't until I really completely lost myself in my journey and my travels to really find, my place in this universe, in this world. The more I got out of my head, the more I allowed myself to explore with different sounds, because I've been playing guitar and singing since I was, a teenager. Picked up the guitar, but it was very much so from a masculine energetics standpoint of, this is the structure, the chords go like this is where she breathes, this is how she sings it, and I was like a machine.
mm,
I could memorize a song and sing it exactly how they sing it, but it totally was stripped away from all genuine authenticity and me. And I was, yeah, again, I was very robotic with it. And then as I think definitely something was activated when I was in Bali. And I think there's no surprise that they call that, the land of the gods, because the vibration on that, in
mm,
that space is really potent. But it was further activated when I came to this country, because I know there is some incredibly ancient roots to this land here, that maybe there's a past life, a connection here that was awakened in me. But I would really say that I gave myself space and freedom to play, because you can't find your voice unless you look for it. And you can't look for it unless you give yourself the safety and the space to to explore. So I was exposed to so many different types of experiences in Bali, and seeing different people do different things with their voices, with their bodies and dance. And I thought, well, how do I do that? I want to do that. So I started playing with my voice and just letting it do weird things. And it wasn't until I connected deeply with the medicine drum that it's a beautiful drum. I actually made this in berry. I
Oh,
connected with the medicine drum because in that space there's no chords, there's no structure. There's just simply connecting to a beat,
mhm.
a heartbeat of the earth, a beat of the spirit of the animal, and allowing whatever wants to come through. And for a lot of my clients, this is the scariest part when I say like, all right, now go. What is coming through? And it's like just starting is the hardest part to give us the space. And I'd say to sum it up in terms of song channeling, it's really just letting myself, it's clearing the resistance, letting the energy flow, and just in trusting that whatever wants to come, just let it come. And maybe it's not going to be pretty. Maybe it's going to sound weird. Maybe it's going to crack. Maybe it's going to crumble, whatever it is. But I gave myself the space to play and to explore, and having a musical background, and having, the guitar, and these different tools where I felt like I was supported by the instruments, and then feeling the support of the community. It doesn't hurt when a group of people in a yoga studio say that there's something special there, and I'm like, really?
Mm.
They can't all be lying.
Yes,
Well,
the validation.
maybe there is. Well, shit, let's see what else I got going on. And then I just continued to play and unfold. And yeah, it's been this massive journey of getting out of the way. And yeah, there are sounds that come through that I'm like, where, who, when? I mean, there's a technique apparently that I've tapped into called yoiking that is done in parts of Northern Europe that I don't even
Wow.
know. I don't even know how I got into that, but I think it's very much so a past life remembrance,
Yeah.
Yeah.
of tapping back into it. So yeah, it's hard to say.
Mm.
Oh,
And that obviously led you to be on The Voice. Let's go there. Wow.
Yeah.
You were the first person ever to sit on the blind auditions with your bowls, with no planned song, and just
Yeah.
channel intuitively.
Yeah, well, I'll first take you to my intention behind going to the show because, I had applied before I had even quit my corporate job, but I had just gotten my permanent residency visa. And so it was like, right, Ali, you have T minus 1 year to quit your job and do this again. And I'm like, oh, shit, that's scary because I know the first time I did this, it didn't go so well, and let's just see. And so there was this, all right, well, how do I get massive exposure? Like, I don't want to be pushing out reels every day, just hoping that slowly, eventually I'll get more. I'm like, I want massive exposure. And I was like, oh, why don't I just get on TV? How do I get on TV? Okay, let's do one of those singing shows. And I had a friend who's like, oh, you applied to The Voice? And I was like, yeah, I never heard anything though. She's like, oh, I know the producers and you're fucking legends. So, and I met her because she came for a one-on-one, and
The
she
universe is so
emails,
good, right?
right? She messages the producer and goes, you have to get this girl in for an audition. And of course, I still had to go through the rounds with the producers, and I still had to, win them over. But that connection just bumped me up in a queue of about 70,000. And so there I was, with a room full of producers. I brought my medicine drum, I brought my guitar, I had every crystal bowl and Himalayan singing bowl, chimes, flute. And I told them all a bit about my journey. And I said, this is not a performance. I'm not here to entertain. I am here to touch your soul. And I asked them to all close their eyes. I went around the room with essential oils and rose water.
I
you know,
love it.
you know how I really drop into ceremony, right? Diane's had me
yeah,
spray
yeah.
rose water on her. So I had them all close their eyes, and I put the essential roller on them, rose medicine in their face, and I just told them to all close their eyes and breathe into their hearts. And I picked up a bowl because I didn't know. I had so many bowls. I didn't know how this was going to work. But one of the women said she had a stomach ache. She's never been to sound healing, but my tummy hurts. And I'm like, E-bowl corresponds with the solar plexus. So I will take that out and see what happens. And I gave them a full dose of what I have to offer. And then, of course, I had the medicine drum, I had the guitar. So I gave them a glimpse of, you know, Zombie Cranberries, Johnny Cash Hurt, Hallelujah. I sang all the songs that would fit in that more acceptable box of the Voice television show. And the producers look at each other and they're like, I reckon we make an exception. And I was like, oh, what's this exception? And they said, well, we had a Mongolian throat singer one year, and clearly he's not going to sing like in any old average song, but I reckon you go on stage with the bowls. And I'm like, yes, I get to be
Wow.
me. I get to be me.
Wow.
So
Oh my
that
goodness.
happened, and to stay true, as you know, as you touched on, to stay true to my song channel, I did not rehearse anything. I mean, the only preparation I did was exercise, breath work, you know, some yoga, some conscious movement, visualizations, you know, the power stances, you name it, affirmations, all of it,
Just bring
microdose.
that vibration up.
Oh yeah,
Open the
oh
channel.
yeah. Oh, so that, yeah, that happened. And I think there was a part of me that was like, oh, nobody turned. And I think there was a little part of that ego trip that's like, oh, maybe you're
Yeah.
not good enough. And then I thought, well, actually, no, this is perfect. This is exactly where I wanted it, because had I had turned a chair, they would have had control over my hair, my makeup, my wardrobe, rights to my originals. And I think they also knew, because from the day one I met them, I said, look, I'm not here to be commercialized. I'm not here to, to be fit inside inside any sort of mold. I'm here to raise the vibration of humanity. Like,
I love it.
Yeah.
what up? Like, what? And they're like, okay, so which one of the coaches would you select if you? I was like, you know, to be honest, I don't watch TV and I don't even know who they are, but I'm here. And
Ah.
they're like, they
Be
cracked
bold, be
up.
brave.
They're like, wait, what? Then why the voice? And I said, look, I'm on a mission to impact as many people as I possibly can. And this seems like a good outlet to share my story, you know, my struggles with anxiety and depression. Like, I want to share that. I want to share where I've come from. I want to share my voice. I want to touch people's souls and maybe tickle them a little bit. You know, I have a mission. I have a mission. And they're like, well, it is a great story, and this is, you know, the story team talking, and they love to have a good story for their for the show, and so it all just seemed to align, and there I was, and there it happened, and went from about 4,000 followers to about 30,000 in the span of a couple weeks, and it was
Oh.
massive, just beautiful exposure, and singing without words, you know, it meant I could impact people all around the world without
Mm.
language, you know, as a barrier, and yeah, I like to think just the beginning. It's just the
And we will
beginning.
definitely play that clip,
Yes.
because it
Oh,
will really, you will feel the music from Ali
Yeah.
when you listen, when you actually watch that clip on The Voice.
Yeah. And I think even
oh.
watching, because Rita Ora in particular, her response, because I watched it on the night and I was like gobsmacked at how
Mm.
she completely surrendered to the whole thing. She ended up laying down on the stage and everything. So we will share that, and even tune in and even sense for yourself as you're watching it. How do I feel before? How do I feel during? How do I feel afterwards? Because it is incredible, the shift that you know, sound healing and the activation that occurs through your voice as well, Ali, is just phenomenal. So it doesn't matter that chairs didn't turn around. It was the awareness factor. And, you know, I know that you do work in corporates as well. So all of a sudden it's like, you know, people who need that permission for things to be a little bit more digestible. It's like, well, she's been on The Voice, so now we have this, you know, this celebrity
I
status that goes with it. But still, it's having that access then to be able to do more sound healing in the corporate environment, because yeah, we all know that you know, any of us that have done the corporate work, we all know that there is a lot of, you know, increase in vibration, a lot of healing that can occur for people in
mm,
that space as well.
absolutely. Yeah, and just to have the opportunity to bring sound healing to the mainstream, because, you know, what we are consuming, well, I don't really watch TV, but for the most, you know, majority of people consuming, it's, you know, it's not good. It's not healthy. It's not helping us. It's making us feel shit about ourselves. And we're, comparing ourselves to these, plastic images and these filtered, versions of people, especially, women and young girls, and seeing that maybe you don't have to be a pop star. Maybe you can, be a healer. And maybe that's sexy. Like, let's go with
Love
that.
that.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely, absolutely. It's funny because I'd love to bring this into a little bit, and sorry, this is me geeking out a little bit here, but around sound healing specifically and the kind of, I guess, the scientific elements behind it. Because for some people, it's like, oh, am I just going to go in and listen to someone sing, or they're going to, do a few bowls? How is that going to heal me? But the reality is, like, our audible senses, like what we can hear, is only a very small amount of the overall audible spectrum.
Mm,
Like, there's, infrasounds, there's ultrasounds, there's so much. We think of dog whistles, like, of course we can't hear them as humans, but dogs can hear that. So there's so much more in terms of vibration and frequency that is available to us. And if we think, for anyone who's interested in cymatics or that can see how sound impacts water, and we are like 50 to 70% water. So the impact
mm,
that it is going to have on every cell in our body when
mm.
we are, subjected to these different frequencies. But for you, like, I mean, how do you, or how can you educate our listeners, or what can you say to our listeners to help them understand what is it that sound healing really does within your body?
Yeah, great question. So, quantum physics has proven now that we live in a vibrational universe. Everything is vibrating at a certain frequency. You, me, the foods we eat, the thoughts we think, the feelings we feel, everything we consume carries a vibration, carries a frequency. And we can work with sound to move stagnant energy in the body, to shift our frequency, to dial it up. Because for a lot of us, we have this idea that the person I was yesterday, I'm still the person today. Actually, we are completely vibrational creatures that are, I'm different now than I was when I woke up this morning because I did my breath work, I did some yoga, and I, did my affirmations or whatever it may be. I sang some songs. But sound is an incredibly potent tool to help us to shift and access these expanded states, these elevated states, these higher vibrations, because a lot of us get stuck in the monkey mind, get stuck in the 3D, get stuck in all the things that we can measure, the things we can quantify. And when we can work with sound, it becomes something that our bodies, going back to that innate wisdom of our bodies respond so well to sound. And even the words that we use, you've heard of, the experiments with water and plants, and, saying I love you to this cup of a plant, and saying I hate you to this other, and seeing how those plants respond. One shrivels up and dies, and one, continues to flourish. And so I think a lot of us have completely overlooked the power of sound healing as, yeah, you're just laying there like, I want a bit more potent, but actually, sound is incredibly potent, and we're just beginning to reinvestigate all the stuff that the ancients knew. I mean, some suspect and theorize that that's how the massive pyramids were created, through sound technologies,
Yeah.
and there's just so much that we have yet to really unearth and connect with, because as a society, we like quick fixes, and we like, pills and things that we can take and pay for and buy, and all that stuff. But ultimately, we are our own healers, and we can recalibrate ourselves with sounds, with our own voices. And that's why I've been so passionate about sound healing involving your voice, because out of every instrument in the planet, the most healing vibration there is your own voice, and it doesn't need to sound good to heal you. And it's, going back to the science, we're talking vagus nerve, vagal tone, and the vagus nerve is the organ, or the basically the major highway from our brain to every organ in our body. And when we can stimulate the vagus nerve through breath work, through singing, through chanting, we can start to support every function in our body. So it's, in my world, multifaceted, where we're, sound healing is not just a one woman show where I'm here doing the work. It's like I get my clients to tone and to connect with their voices, because we all have that medicine within us.
Yeah.
Now, I need to say, though, because it's bringing it up for me, that the awkwardness that I felt, so in the group session, because that was my first experience of working with you, Ali, when you were getting us to use our vocal range and to, kind of honor whatever wanted to come out, the resistance in me was unbelievable. Like, and it was fascinating for me to observe myself thinking, wow, okay. Because particularly, being a trauma-informed coach, for me, I know the importance of expressing through the body, but also expressing through the voice. So I was fascinated watching myself. And then it was like, okay, well, I'll give myself permission to hum, but I'm not singing. I was still throttling back. I was still stopping myself from doing it. But it is any of those things that we feel that we're resisting. So we're resisting emotions, we're resisting, using our voice. There is always such a pearl of wisdom in that, actually that's the thing that is the key to your healing. So get in there, get amongst it. So I'm just saying that for anyone who has been to a session like this or is thinking about it, if you hit that point where you're feeling a bit awkward and you're feeling a bit resistant, go with it, because the miracle of expansiveness that comes out the other side, the healing that comes out the other side, it will only match how much you're going to surrender to the process.
Absolutely. If it scares us, go towards it.
Yes. It scares us in a good way.
Yes.
In a good way, not the tiger or the dark alley, but in terms of experiences, in a good way, lean into it.
Oh, and I'm sure that all of our listeners are going to be dying to go and race to Instagram, go to your website, check out what you've got on offer. Where can everybody find you?
Yeah, so I've got a website, aliskiba.com. You can book in for a private session. You can contact me for private groups. I have my events up there. Also, downloadable sound healing and breathwork journeys that you can transfer to your iPhone and have access to as well. I've also got a YouTube channel where I've got an 8-hour sound healing for sleep journey, though you might want
divine.
premium. The ads will be fairly annoying if you don't have premium, though. So I'm also selling that if anyone's interested. And Instagram, Melodious Yogi, Facebook, Melodious Yogi. But all of it really you can find either on my Instagram or on my website.
And we will share all of those in our show notes as well. But before you go anywhere, everyone, being right before the new year, we had a chat with Ali, and she has gifted us all with an incredible healing to help us all step into the new year. So thank you so much, Ali. Everybody, keep listening. This has the potential to not only change your life, to open up and give you a taste of what Ali does, but also to help you start 2024 on the right foot. So thank you so much again for being with us, Ali, and we cannot wait to see where your journey goes.
Thank you so much for having me. Big, big love to you both.
Thank you.
That's it for another episode.
Thank you for listening. Did you know that we are building a movement of 1 million people who are spiritual as fuck? We would love for you to join us. You can start by leaving us a review on Apple Podcast. Every month, I'm going to intuitively choose one person and do a psychic reading for you. So
follow us on Instagram, send in your stories and topic suggestions, and join the movement
at spiritual.a.f. Until next time.
This is a Guide Your Light Network production, creating podcasts with purpose.